Hey guys, my name is Dice Rollin'. Today we're going to be taking a look at a horror movie that seeks to capture every retail worker's worst nightmare. Written by Andy Groskowiak, Black Friday was directed by Casey Tebo. It was released on November 19th of this year, just in time for the real horror that is this year's Black Friday. So far, this movie has received some modest reviews, and looks to be a decent film for the holiday season. Employees of a toy store are faced with a different sort of ravenous horde than they're used to. It seems the shoppers have been infected with parasites. So without further ado, this is my review of Black Friday. The movie starts off by introducing us to Monty, played by Lonnie Farmer, who's an Allmart employee just trying to prepare for the dreaded after-Thanksgiving festivities. Don't get attached, folks. After the opening credits, which were sung by Patrick Stump and not some old-fashioned Christmas crooner, by the way, we meet Ken Bates, played by Devon Sawa. He's a divorced dad having to drop his daughters off with their mom and her new man. There's also the germaphobe Chris Godecki, played by Ryan Lee. They are on their way, begrudgingly, to Wee Toys for the after-dinner crowd. If this movie didn't already set the tone for the story and message, I'm gonna let Chris here drive it home.
It's like everyone's at home watching football, eating pumpkin pie. It's just so depressing.
I can't say I disagree. It's time to meet the rest of the happy employees. Archie, played by Michael Jai White, Marnie, played by Ivana Baquero, Lou, played by Christopher Michael, Anita, played by Celeste Oliva, Brian, played by Stephen Peck, Berger, played by Stanley Bruno, and last, but certainly not least, Jonathan Wexler, played by Bruce Campbell. Before the gates of hell are opened, Emmett, played by Louis Kurtzman, introduces himself to Ken, and with the correct amount of dread, it's time to allow every Karen and Chad to trample over each other for the latest overpriced gaming console. As can be predicted, things go south pretty quickly, with an elderly woman giving Chris shit, and Brian's no help. Grandma's on her last leg here, and she's gonna shove it up someone's ass. Brian sends Chris out to the aisles to clean up some suspected vomit. It turns out that Reagan is not in the building, and whatever it is did not come from a human body. Thus, Chris has to fend off a couple of very zombie-esque customers. I have to give him props because he does pretty well. This is clearly a major issue, so all customers are asked to vacate the store, while Chris is detained and the situation is investigated. Lucky for Chris and his plea of innocence, Emmett is also attacked by a different woman, and this results in Emmett being the latest parasite-possessed person in the building. If everyone else wasn't freaking out before, then they definitely are now. On the bright side, Anita gets taken out. Archie dispatches Emmett, and it's time to come up with some kind of a plan. According to the fellow retail worker that Brian was able to get a hold of over the phone, whatever these things are seem to be prevalent in other locations, and they're building something. So everyone splits up into groups consisting of Ken, Marnie, Jonathan, and Ruth, played by Ellen Colton, who search for a safe place to hold up. I think they'll be fine. Mr. Campbell has dealt with disgruntled supernatural customers before.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
Archie, Brian, and Chris have to make their way to the employee exit to secure the store. This is done with surprising ease, despite there still being a number of shoppers, as they call them, running around the store. Ken and Jonathan take out Lou in the men's restroom as well. With the store on lockdown, Marnie tells the group about what she saw when she was sneaking around whatever the shoppers were building.
I saw something, I don't know what it was, but I think the shoppers are trying to reach each other and...
At this point, we're just in their way.
There's something else revealed as well.
Thought that I told you that there were going to be no holiday bonuses this year.
Now who's the real parasite of this movie, huh? The police show up in time to screw everything up. So we're back to square one, essentially. In the process of fleeing for their lives, Archie fends off a considerable amount of shoppers single-handedly. Before... everyone else makes it to the back room, minus Ruth, but that doesn't matter. It's time for the obligatory heartfelt conversation over some deli-sliced turkey, which devolves into some crushing of dreams. In the wake of this, a new plan is formed. If they can cut the locks on the loading dock doors, they can get into the truck that the now deceased Lou was unloading. Jonathan makes a bit of a speech about how he's going to stay behind and go down with the ship, so to speak. And that's all well and good, but Emmett has an interjection, even though Marnie spent a considerable amount of time bashing his brains in. Though Emmett is finally defeated by Brian, Ken has been bitten. That means that he'll be the one to stay behind, while the others make a break for it. Chris manages to get out of the boxed portion of the truck, but not without being noticed. Aside from the obvious, the problem here is that Chris doesn't know how the fuck to drive the truck. I don't know why no one thought of this. Speaking of bad news, one of the shoppers has broken through to the back room. Jesus, I haven't seen something this wrinkly and saggy since Wreck. The group in the truck aren't any safer from the shoppers either, as they attempt to open it like a pothead with a container of Lofthouse cookies. They make it up to the roof, only to find that the fire started in the back room is spreading rather quickly. The only other way down is infested with shoppers. In a sort of last act of defiance, Jonathan leaps to his death.
Why did you do that?
I've got a plot twist for you. Apparently, Brian was the one who bit Ken, not Emmett, because Brian's a dick. Naturally, this means that when the three of them jump for their lives into a dumpster, Marnie and Chris leave Brian behind. Unfortunately, he does follow them as they look for an unlocked car in the parking lot. But he does act as a distraction to the thing that the shoppers morphed into.
The customers are always
Hey, there's Ken! Even better, he has keys. It's Chris's turn to pull a hero stunt by using a forklift, and the monster's own tongue like a deadly slingshot. And much like Toys R Us, the store is reduced to rubble. Of course, that doesn't mean this is all over. And with the song Stone Won't Roll by Taddy Porter, the credits roll. Black Friday's existence isn't very shocking. I'm actually more surprised that a horror movie centered around this after-holiday shopping spree hadn't happened sooner. Plot-wise, it serves as a decent zombie-style horror movie. It could even be considered as part of the alien invasion subgenre. It neither adds nor subtracts from anything we've already seen. And in a way, that's part of its downfall. It doesn't really do anything new. A group of various survivors end up trapped in a place where they need to work together to survive whatever hordes surround them. Sound familiar? I can't be upset with it, but I didn't fully like it either. There could have been more done with the story, and it could have been less predictable. Now that I think about it, it does come across as a great value version of an Evil Dead sequel. The acting is good. Nothing spectacular, but solid. I did like how everyone interacted with each other. There were some stereotypes played out, but not in a way that made me roll my eyes. Clearly, the spotlight here was on Bruce Campbell and Devon Sawa. I enjoyed both of their acting and found it to be the most entertaining part of the whole thing. However, I can't help but feel that Mr. Campbell wasn't allowed to be full-on Campbell. Someone else I liked was Michael Jai White. Yes, he may have portrayed a bit of a stereotypical character, but he made it work well. I was genuinely sad that he got taken out. I feel like the weakest performances came from the shoppers, at least before they were infected. This was filmed in 2020, so we know that the pandemic was still very prominent. Maybe that had an effect on how many people they could have, forming the ravenous crowd. But they really don't compare to real-life crowds that swarm stores on Thanksgiving night. If footage of real stores and real crowds had been used in the movie, I think it would have amped the horrifying element way up. How about the atmosphere and settings? Or, more accurately, setting? The Wee Toys store was interesting enough to keep my attention, though I can't really say it did much for me other than that. It's a toy store, and it came across as such. It felt oddly nostalgic and slightly misplaced, given that places like Toys R Us just don't exist anymore. The atmosphere got the vibe of impending Christmas down, but again, that's about it. Nothing fantastic or spectacular that I can remember off the top of my head. With the special effects being a mix of practical and CGI, I found that it all looked pretty good. The look of the infected shoppers had stages that all looked nice. Towards the end, they did remind me a bit of that one demon from Ash vs. the Evil Dead. The parasites looked cool, and didn't come across as being made of extremely cheap materials. You knew they were something alien without it having to be said out loud. And the kills, though a bit on the sparing side, were believable and didn't yank me out of what was going on too much. Overall, the practical effects, which take up a majority of the effects, are far better than the CGI. According to IMDb, the music for Black Friday was made by Patrick Stump, and produced by Christopher Carmichael. It was fitting for the tone of the story. It was catchy and caught my attention a few times throughout the film. I don't think I'll be finding myself listening to it like I do with other horror movie scores and soundtracks, but I still appreciate it for what it is. No complaints on it here. With all that being said, I'm giving Black Friday 3.5 out of 10 bloody thumbs up. For a variety of reasons, this movie just came across as rather bland to me. Kind of like when your relative doesn't baste the turkey properly, and it ends up being dry and lacking flavor. It looks nice, but there's very little substance there. One issue that I have is that the infected shoppers don't get all that much screen time, and they don't really do anything. Every once in a while they might kill someone, but there isn't much in the way of gore. They don't come off as that much of a threat, and that's not a good thing for what's supposed to be the monster of your film. I started out liking where it was headed, with the snark and the way the characters spoke and interacted, but it took a bit to get to why I was watching it in the first place, and once it got there, it didn't do anything to keep my interest that much. It's not a terrible film by any means. It could have been something really fun and goofy in a charming way, but it was holding back way too much on what it could have portrayed, especially with such a solid main cast at the forefront. I don't dislike it, but like I said, I don't like it either. So it ends up being put in this limbo category of eh. I don't feel like I wasted my time on it, but it could have been better spent. I would recommend Black Friday to fans of holiday-themed horror movies, Michael Jai White, Bruce Campbell, and Devon Sawa fans, those who like their aliens and zombies, and anyone who would like to watch something a little more entertaining than their distant, elderly relatives fighting over who gets the last drumstick. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like to let me know. Don't forget to leave a comment down below telling me what you think of this movie, and if you have any suggestions for horror movies you would like to see me review in the future. You can support the channel through my Patreon, where you would also get exclusive and early access to videos like this. Also, don't forget to share this video to help the channel grow, and subscribe for more videos like this. See you later.
You know the worst thing about holiday shoppers? They can never accept the fact that the night is over.